Hello and welcome everyone to the world famous Adventurers Club of Los Angeles. My name is Andrew Medina. I am member number 1212 and I am so glad to be your host for the evening. We got another great program coming at you tonight. I am joined by the one and only Michael Yang to talk about his adventures in long distance motorcycling. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Michael, welcome to the Adventurers Club.
Thank you, Andrew.
So, tell us a little bit about like where you got your start. What was like the first moment you realized you even had an adventurous spirit?
Well, I've always enjoyed playing outside when I was growing up in Korea, even when it's really cold and freezing outside. And even in the United States, when we go on some family trips, I'm always curious to try driving into a dirt road or snowy covered road. Just that sense of risk-taking, thrill. I just wanted to try those things. So that's how I knew that I have adventure side in me. But it wasn't until when I was 56, 57 years old that I started going on long motorcycle trips with my friend. And I think that's when I really realized that I'm an adventurer. And that's how I started.
Is there much motorcycle culture in Korea?
There is these days, but back when I was growing up in Korea in the 60s and 70s, motorcycles were kind of rare. Even cars were kind of rare because the country had just gone through a Korean War, and so there was a lot of not a lot of resources and things, and so motorcycle was a rare thing, and there was probably a total of less than like 500 motorcycles in the entire country when I was living there.
And you grew up in Seoul, right?
That's correct. I was born and raised in Seoul until I was 14, and then my family moved to the United States.
Sure.
That's a picture of me when I was 5 years old playing outside. My mother told me that day the temperature had dropped to like minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit, which was minus 20 degrees Celsius. But my cheek is all red, and I'm wearing a hand-me-down sweater.
But you're still kind of smiling.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, it's my mom's favorite picture of me.
So today we're going to talk about 3 of your longest trips. And so I don't get the names wrong, I'm just going to read them off. They are LA to Newfoundland, LA to Prudhoe Bay in Alaska, and then LA to Ushuaia, Argentina, and then to Patagonia. Is that right?
That's correct.
So do we have a video of those?
Yes, I prepared a short slide presentation with some photos and videos that I could kind of share with the audience.
Yeah, let's get that started right now, shall we?
Okay, sure.
Phoebe, let's hit that.
So this is a picture of me when I arrived at the Dead Horse in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, which is the northern tip of Alaska, right on the Arctic Ocean. And it is the northernmost motorable point in North America. So you cannot go any further north. So if you could go to the next slide.
And folks, real quick, fun fact, Phoebe, our first vice president, used to work in Dead Horse, Alaska as a cook for the oil field workers up there.
That's right. So this is how I get ready for the trip. I lay everything out, all the gears, equipment, food, clothing, emergency supplies before I go on trips. And if you go to the next slide, so what I bring with me is basic things like riding boots, helmets, sleeping bags, tents, stove, cooking utensils, all the stuff that I need to camp out if I cannot find lodging in the wilderness. And in case of Alaska trip, I had to bring a bear spray because grizzly bears are a real danger up there. So a lot of people strongly recommended that I bring that. But the interesting story is when I was crossing into Canada border, the border officer said, "Are you carrying any firearms or bear spray?" And I instantly got the sense that it's illegal to bring this into Canada.
Right.
But I had to lie because I didn't want to get my bear spray confiscated because I really needed that for my own survival.
Right.
So I said, I'm not carrying any firearms or bear spray, so they let me enter to Canada.
So is you saying that right now going to pick you up some charges in Canada?
Hopefully,
no, all right.
you
No
won't
one
see it.
tell. No
Yeah.
one. Everyone in this room
Yeah.
is sworn to secrecy
So this is my
and the internet.
motorcycle. This is a BMW R1250 GS Adventure. It's a 1,250cc motorcycle. It's one of the to me best motorcycles to go on long distance adventure trips because it has plenty of power. You could ride this on the dirt road as well as on the paved road, and it has a lot of power and comfort. So it has like cruise control because I'm riding 300 to 400 miles a day, and a lot of other top box and side panniers that I could carry all my camping gear, clothing, food, and everything else. So it's a great motorcycle, and I could not do my trips obviously without this. The next slide. So this particular ride was in 2022, was about a 40 days trip. I left LA and through Colorado Rockies, went to Niagara Falls. There I met up with my riding buddy, who's my best friend, Carl. We met up there because he lives in Seattle and he was riding across the Trans-Canadian Highway. We met up there and then we continued on to Quebec, Nova Scotia, all the way up to Newfoundland, Labrador. And we reached the easternmost point in North America. You cannot go any further east than that. And so we went there, and then he came back to Seattle, and then I went down to Maine, down to New York. This is the route map.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so I went down to Appalachian, the Blue Ridge Parkway, all the way down to Alabama, down to New Orleans, Louisiana, to Houston, Texas. And I entered Mexico and rode through the Chihuahua and Sonora Desert and came back out to Arizona and came back to LA. So the total distance was about 12,000 miles from LA to Newfoundland and back. So it was average of 300 to 400 miles of riding a day with some rest days once in a while. So next slide. This is when I'm leaving my son is getting goodbye, wishing me safe travel, and I'm taking off.
Now, 3 of your kids are here tonight.
Yes,
Isn't
so
that right?
3 of our older kids are here tonight. Our youngest has a choir concert at school tonight, so he could not make it.
That's lovely.
And my wife wanted to come too, but she had to go to the
Of course.
concert. So the next slide. So one of the things about traveling is that you're going to have some problems. And in this case, I had some mechanical problem where the shifter on my left side, it became loose and came off. And it was a good thing that I saw that it was about to come off, so I was able to see the problem. And so to get around, because I was riding in the south of Lake Superior, where there's nothing around for 100 to 200 miles.
Right, sure.
So I had to kind of quickly find a workaround, and I used a zip tie. Next slide. To kind of hold it together.
Hell yeah.
So I could still shift while I had another 200 miles to ride before I could get to a town. So that was the workaround. And so you have, different problems. Battery dying on you, have flat tires, you could have a windshield broken when the bike falls down or whatever. So you have to just find ways to work around to complete your trip. So next slide. So we arrived in the Canada side of Niagara Falls here, and I'm riding with my friend Carl at this point. So we meet up in this town of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, near the Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, and then we ride together from that point on.
So this is Carl.
That's Carl.
Okay.
Now, Carl is we met at Cal Berkeley, but we found out that we went to elementary school together.
Oh, wow.
And we discovered that we both love motorcycle riding and traveling. So we went on many, many trips together. He taught me how to do camping while riding on a motorcycle trip. So he's really a great friend and a teacher. But unfortunately, he passed away while he was abalone diving in Oregon coast a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
But that was really a sad moment. But he loved the adventure.
Yeah.
And I really miss him even now. But so the next slide, we're riding on the Trans-Canadian Highway between Niagara Falls and was riding behind me, and he was holding his smartphone camera and videotaping me. So we're doing that in the next.
So have you been on, how many trips have you been on since Carl passed?
Yeah, so two big trips
Gotcha.
after Carl passed. So this is somewhere in New Brunswick, Canada, and I parked my bike on the side of the road to take a picture that we're entering New Brunswick, but there was a big gust wind and big semi-truck that drove by. So the wind tipped over the motorcycle and breaking the windshield.
Yeah.
So I had to wait to get some help to get the bike back up because it's about 1,000 pounds. The motorcycle itself is about 800 pounds.
Okay.
And I'm carrying about 100 to 200 pounds of equipment and gear and food. Now, fortunately, the windshield was broken, but I found somebody through Facebook who had the replacement windshield in the next town. So I was able to get it replaced. So this is the power of being connected through social network.
Yeah.
Because I post my travel on my Facebook page.
Oh, yes.
Then I have hundreds of motorcycle riders all over the world following me on that trip.
Very nice.
And one of them lived nearby there, so he was able to say, "Hey, I have the windshield that you need, so just come by and I'll install it for you."
Wow.
So that was amazing. So, and then we finally arrived in Newfoundland after riding about 6,000 miles. And it's a very remote part of Canada in the northeastern corner. Nothing there. Other than the wilderness.
Looks like eastern Montana.
Similar, but even more rugged, more natural. Okay.
So how do you stay alert on these trips? Because it's like,
Yeah, sometimes you get sleepy because you're riding all long and you're tired from previous day of riding, and so I bring gum with me, chewing gum, so to keep me awake until I stop for the next one, or snack on beef jerky or some other snacks. Right. And I take frequent breaks every 80 to 100 miles or every 1.5 to 2 hours.
Okay.
I make sure to take a break so that I'm refreshed and rested before the next leg.
Right.
So when we arrived in Newfoundland, one of the things that was super interesting was that there was a Viking settlement in Newfoundland, Canada called Anse aux Meadows. It's a UNESCO's World Heritage Site. And so we went to this area, and it's pretty well preserved, and they have a museum now. And so if you go to the next slide. So completing the circle is a short documentary video that they showed at the museum. And basically, the significance of Viking landing there 1,000 years ago, long before Christopher Columbus arrived in North America, is that it was the very first time in human history that the very first humans who left Africa, some went to northwest toward Europe, that became European. Right. And some went northeast toward east and became Asian and Northeast Asian. Right. And some 50,000 years ago, there was a Beringia, which is a land bridge between Asia and North America.
Right, up by where Alaska is and Siberia.
That's right.
Right. Between
Between Siberia and Alaska. And so those groups of people had migrated down toward, there was a picture there.
There we go. Yep.
So the part that the people who went east went all the way east to Newfoundland, Canada, to the right side of that map. And then the people went west toward Europe. The Vikings were the first Europeans to cross the Atlantic Ocean and arrived in Newfoundland.
I see.
And met. So it was a completing the circle of how humans started from Africa and basically met on the other side of the earth.
Right. I see. Okay. Yeah.
So that was very first encounter of two different groups of people who traveled, migrated all the way around the earth.
That's really cool.
So that was really interesting. And I admire Vikings because they're quite adventurers. They are
Yeah.
explorers, they're risk takers, they have the best technology of the era, which is shipbuilding and navigation.
Yeah.
And so they're quite amazing. They had metal making technology, but I think they had to either go back to Greenland or Iceland, or they perished because of the conflict with the native people.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of so not all the European settlements in the U.S. succeeded, like Christopher Columbus.
Right.
Some
Sure.
tried, but they got rejected because of the conflict. So this is a satellite image of where I was. So at that point, I'm much closer to London and Paris and Africa than I was to back home in LA,
Oh, wow.
because I was that far east in the Atlantic Ocean.
You're huge in this photo.
This is Cape Spear. That's the lighthouse at the eastern edge of Newfoundland. So again, from that point, you cannot go any further east unless you jump into the Atlantic Ocean.
Did you?
I did jump into the
Hell
ocean
yeah.
because I try to celebrate or commemorate my arrival
There it
of
is,
my
yeah.
destination by jumping in. It was quite cold. It
You
was
don't say.
that spot was not too far from where Titanic sank some 60 years ago.
Very cold.
Yeah,
as we
very
know.
cold, but it was very refreshing, so I was very happy. And then there's Irish Loop, and there's just beautiful place. I mean, Newfoundland's a huge island. It's as big as Japan, or like size of, it's even bigger than California. I didn't realize
Oh, wow.
how big Newfoundland is.
Neither did I.
Yeah. So it's a huge island, and there's a lot of beautiful trails to go riding on. So we spent 3 days resting and just checking out the local trails there.
Very cool.
And then, now on the way back, we found out that Carl came down with COVID. He tested positive while we were there. So we had to stay in a separate motel room, and he was not feeling altogether well, so he rested a couple extra days. And this is inside of a ferry. You ride your motorcycle and cars and trucks and RVs in it. So this is when we're arriving back in New Sydney, Nova Scotia, and we're about to go our separate ways. He wanted to go straight home back to Seattle, and
Gotcha.
I wanted to ride down the East Coast,
Okay.
down to Texas, and come back to LA.
A long way.
So
Okay.
that was. And then I have so many other photos and videos of my riding through the East Coast, but I don't have enough time to show all today. But this was when I was entered into Mexico from Texas, and I'm riding through, and because of the drug problems, there are a lot of military checkpoints. So this
Gotcha.
one particular military soldier carrying a semi-automatic gun, he was very friendly. So he was happy to take a selfie with me. So
Nice of him.
that was nice. They're very nice people, unless you're drunk, people.
Right.
Then they're. And so I finally arrived in Santa Monica Pier, which is
Nice.
the end of the Route 66. So my family came out to greet me and welcome me there.
That's
So
lovely.
we took a picture and went out to a Korean barbecue restaurant to celebrate.
Hell yeah.
So that's so that was 12,000-mile, 40-day trip.
Did you
Um,
jump into the Pacific Ocean once you got
I
back?
did. I
Yeah.
did jump into the wave to commemorate that I
You
made
got
it back
it.
to Pacific.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate here because I realized Pacific Ocean is the largest body of water on the planet.
Yeah.
And
oh,
we
yeah.
live right here.
Mhm.
So when I was, traveling across the continent, I realized, wow, Pacific Ocean is pretty special, right? So it gave me a renewed appreciation of where we live and the beauty of the Pacific Ocean.
Sure.
So the next trip that I went on, which was in 2023,
Okay.
was from LA to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, with a stopover at Tuktoyaktuk, Canada, which is the northernmost point, motorable point in Canada.
Ah, okay.
So there is, it's a.
This is the one that ended in Dead Horse.
Yeah, so the Prudhoe Bay is Dead Horse, that's the Alaska side, and
Yes.
the Tuktoyaktuk is the Canada side. That's actually a whaling village of Inuit people.
Yes.
So it's, unlike Prudhoe Bay, which is really an oil field,
Right. No one really lives there.
no one really, it's just a place
just-
where they pump oil
Yes.
and pump it down to Valdez
Right.
to be shipped all over the world.
Mhm.
So it's there for workers to live while they're do their thing. But
Yeah.
Tuktoyaktuk is actually an indigenous town. It's a
Yeah.
village where 5,000 Inuit people actually live,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
they do sustenance hunting and catch hunt whales,
Oh, wow.
gray whales, beluga whales, and I actually got to taste the muktuk, which is a whale blubber. and it's what they hunt these whales under the UN quota system.
I see.
Because this is their survival.
Sure.
They have no other way of obtaining protein because the cows or other livestock cannot survive in that cold weather.
Right.
So whale is the only way. So I want to check that out. So
Wait,
this was
how did the blubber taste?
It tasted very greasy. It didn't have much taste other than it's very greasy. It's kind of like chewing on a fat.
Okay.
But the outer part was extremely chewy. It's very hard. It's like, gum is pretty soft, right? But it's like chewing on hard rubber.
Huh.
And I chewed for like 2 minutes and I had to spit it out.
So it was like hard and rubbery on the outside, and then
that's right. But
like
the inside
chewy
is
on
like
the inside?
greasy, fatty, protein.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds delightful.
But if you eat it after you boil it, it has a different taste. So I got to taste
they gave you the raw stuff?
Raw as well as boiled. And,
okay.
So boiled has
how was it boiled?
It tasted, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I cannot find the word to describe that taste.
How did it feel?
It felt like eating like boiled bacon maybe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or chicken maybe.
That does
some
not sound
cross
great.
between a bacon and a chicken.
Uh-huh.
So it's hard to describe because there's no word to describe how these things taste.
Sure. No, I'm with you.
So yeah, in this case, I left LA, went to Utah, Wyoming, crossed into Canada through Banff, and rode through the Icefield Parkway, went to Hyder, Alaska to Dawson City, and then in Yukon, and then took Tuyaktuk and came back down and crossed the top of the world highway, went to Fairbanks, Alaska, Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, came back down to Denali National Park, Wrangell St. Elias National Park, and then took a ferry from Prince Rupert down to Vancouver Island, and then crossed back into US in Seattle, and then rode back down to LA. So that was 37 days, 10,454 miles. So here I'm leaving for my trip, and my wife and my family, my parents, wish me a safe ride and trip. And so this is a picture at the Athabasca ice field in Banff, near the Icefield Parkway, and near Calgary, Canada.
You really get a sense of just how small people are against the vastness of nature.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're big. These ice buses that go up take people up to the glacier, but from where I was, it's like a tiny ant. But up close, these buses are humongous.
Yeah.
It's like 4 times the size of school buses.
Right.
It's that big. These wheels are so tall, but they're like a tiny. So it's just the scale of these glaciers are enormous. And the next. So this is Hyder, Alaska. There's a salmon glacier to the left, and I'm riding up the mountain road. It's all dirt, slippery gravel. And so I'm riding up parallel to this salmon glacier, which is amazing. There's no place in the world that has this kind of rideable area right next to the glacier. And this was like late in the afternoon, sun was setting, was getting cold, and I was the only one up there. But when I got to the top and I was trying to make a U-turn to go back down the mountain, my bike crashed.
Oh.
So I was all by myself, and I had to remove all the heavy gear from the bike, and I had to use this technique of lifting the bike. So you cannot lift it up this way. You have to kind of get behind and use your leg muscle to lift it up and then turn around. And so I did that to survive because it was getting late and there was nobody else to come and help. And so I learned how to do this so that I could do it in this kind of situation.
Wait, hold on. Break that down for folks who are thinking about doing this or want to try like a solo bike trip like this. Your bike has crashed. You take all the gear off. How do you, what's like the proper technique and form to get it back up?
So as I was saying, let's say the bike is falling down this way.
Yeah.
Most people try to lift it up this way.
Right.
But that's not the right way. You need to grab the handle on this side and the back of the motorcycle and use your leg muscle to kind of lift up.
Almost like a deadlift.
It's kind of like a deadlift.
Yeah.
And there's a YouTube videos on how to bring your bike back up.
Okay.
There are many instructional videos on how to bring the bike back up when it's dropped.
Yeah.
Another challenge was there was a lot of wildfires in Canada and Alaska that year. And a lot of people discouraged me from going because these were like out of control wildfires.
Mm-hmm.
But, adventurers, we don't take those kinds of risk as a reason not to go. It's like we'll have to find a way around it.
Yeah.
So I took a picture of this, heavy smoke coming up from the fire up ahead. Fortunately, there was a couple of points where they closed off the road. But fortunately, they opened it next day, but you go at your own risk, right?
Of
So,
course.
a lot of people were turning around, but
Mhm.
I said I'm going to go as far as I can until somebody forces me to stop and turn around.
Mhm.
So I was able to get to my destination.
I definitely am the same way. I'm just going to do something, and then if someone yells at me to stop, I'll stop.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different reasons to give up.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give up. I
Exactly.
wanted to make it to Tuktoyaktuk and Prudhoe Bay, Alaska,
Yeah.
and then get home safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to take no for an answer. I want to find a workaround. and
Exactly.
try to
There's
find
always
ways
a
to make it
reason
happen.
not to do it.
That's right. And another is, bear is a huge problem there. And there's a bear right along the road, and I got close and took some pictures. And a lot of people said, "Hey, that's too close or too dangerous." But I had a bear spray, so I felt like I was okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, and this is when I was entering the Arctic Circle. I think that's 65-degree latitude as a top cap of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So you're entering that point, and after that, there's tundra, and there's the weather changes, and it's a kind of a different environment. And then eventually, I made it to the Arctic Ocean and Tuktoyaktuk. This was on the Canada side.
Now, I'm assuming you jumped into that one.
I did.
You
jump into-
actually?
I did.
Hell
And the
yeah.
water was surprisingly not that cold.
Okay.
You think, North Pole is not too far away.
Yeah.
And Arctic Ocean, you think is really cold.
I would think
but
so.
this was like July, end of July.
Oh, all right.
So it was not that cold. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Respect. G's up.
And this is actually, I stayed at a bed and breakfast inn. There's not many of them up there. But it's 12 o'clock midnight, but you could still see the sun in the northern sky, and
Mhm.
it's light. So it's light 24 hours a day
Yeah.
for a period of 30 days, right?
So how do you manage your sleep schedule in an environment like that?
Well, you're so tired, so I didn't have problem falling asleep.
Just pass out.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
just you're so tired, you just pass out. And the next slide. So these are Inuvialuit people. They're within Canada. There are many different tribes or groups of native First Nation people,
Sure.
and they're super nice, very warm people, very hospitable. So it was really interesting to meet them. And one of them gave us. This is a small a restaurant. There's not that many restaurants, one or two. This is one of the two restaurants, and there they boil the whale meat, the moktuk.
Oh, is that where you tried the
Yeah, that's
boiled-
where I tried it as an appetizer.
Okay.
So I met some of the other motorcycle riders from Canada, and so this was a picture with the restaurant owner and 3 other riders that I met
Oh, wow.
and took to Yaktuk. And riding back was really hard because it rained, but I still had to keep going. So I had to ride in any kind of weather, and
Right.
so and it could be dangerous because your visibility is very bad. So this is a riding helmet, and it not only protects but also keeps your head warm. But it could fog up, so I have to lift it up, and so the rain water would hit my glasses, and so you just gotta make do with poor visibility.
Yeah.
Because you need to get back to the next town.
And so what are you worried about happening when you have such low visibility? Are you worried about falling into a hole or hitting something? Or?
Yeah, so there's a lot of potholes on the road.
Gotcha.
There might be a slick spots,
Mhm.
or watery spots. So just not being able to see where you're going.
Mhm.
And so there's several motorcycle riders have been killed on that road.
Right.
So it is dangerous, but that's the adventure. You're testing yourself.
Yeah.
And I ride safe and ride conservatively, but I myself have to take risks sometimes because the weather's very bad, or I'm going through a wildfire areas, or very windy area in case of Patagonia. So I finally enter Alaska and get on the Dalton Highway. Dalton Highway is this 400 miles of what's called haul road. It's where the trucks move all the supplies up to from Anchorage to Prudhoe Bay for the oil field.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not a highway per se, but it's really a private road built for this oil pipeline construction.
Interesting.
So on the left is the Alaska Pipeline, which is amazing marvel of engineering because it's about 700 miles long, starts from Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic Ocean and goes all the way down to Valdez, where it's loaded onto a supertanker and shipped to other countries.
Wow.
But along this Dalton Highway, you're constantly in the presence of this huge Alaskan pipeline. And the Alaska Highway has an interesting history in that it was built during World War II when Allied forces, including United States, Britain, and Soviet Union, were on one side, and Nazi Germany and Italy and Japan were on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So the United States supplied a lot of weapons and ammunitions to Soviet Union to fight the war in the European theater.
Yeah.
And they built this Alaskan Highway as a road to move all these weapons and ammunition into Soviet Union.
Right. And wasn't it also to respond in case of a Japanese attack as well?
That was the second reason. So
Okay.
Japanese attacked one of the Aleutian Islands off of Alaska. And so there was a fear that Japanese could invade the mainland through the Aleutian Island chain and up to Alaska and down to the main lower 48. So it was very interesting history to learn during this trip about the history of the Alaskan Highway. And you see a lot of wild animals. This is one of the moose that I ran into in the tundras in the Alaska. And next slide. This is a caribou. There's lots of caribous in that region.
Are they aggressive mostly, or are they at all, or are they just mostly doing their own thing?
I think if they're provoked, then they could get aggressive.
Sure.
But they usually try to avoid humans.
Mm-hmm.
So they if you get close, they run away.
Okay.
And so this is the last mountain range in Alaska before you get to the North Shore. And so I'm riding up this dirt road to the Artesian Pass, and there's a mountain range here that's the highest pass in Alaska. Sorry? Brooks Range, that's the name. I couldn't think of the name. Thank you for pointing that out. Brooks Range. And then the next is, I'm now from Artesian Pass, I'm like riding down on the North Shore of the Brooks Range, headed toward Arctic Ocean. And you can see a truck coming up on the left, but it's tiny. It just shows you the sort of the scale and the distance of things.
Right. Like you were saying before.
Mm-hmm. And I finally made it to Dead Horse in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. This is a famous spot where a lot of adventurers, whether it's motorcycle or cars, they take a picture. It's sort of a kind of a proof that you made it.
It looks like it. I mean, with all the stickers in the back.
So I was very happy. It was a grueling ride. It took me about 18 days to get there, 17 or 18 days to get there. So rode about 5,200 miles to get there.
Okay.
From LA. And this is the satellite picture of where I am at Prudhoe Bay on the top, that blue dot at the top, and then the blue dot at the bottom is the Los Angeles.
You're even bigger in this picture.
Well, it's because the map is small. Yes. And the next slide.
And so this last,
yeah, I did my feet on the Arctic Ocean in Prudhoe Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the kind of sad things that I experienced is that they had this flare gas. When you pump a lot of oil from underground, there's a lot of gas, and so they need to burn it off. So it's called flare gas burning, and it was pretty sizable. and it rumbles, so you could hear it from like even far away.
Oh, wow.
And it's all pollution, right?
Right.
It's gas burning. And so I felt, wow, we're like polluting the earth.
Right.
But then we need gas to get around, especially
Sure.
like motorcycle, because
Yeah.
you cannot really
Like you
use
couldn't-
electric motorcycle because you don't have the range. And so it was kind of a mixed feeling.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's a complicated situation. And I got my compass out to record my latitude. I got up to 70 degrees north, which is the northernmost point that I've ever been to, which was pretty special. Next. And coming back, I took a shot at the Artisan Pass in the Brooks Range on the way back.
That's pretty.
And I was so tired, so there's no real rest stop in that Dalton Highway. So
Right.
you just pull over to like an open area and just kind of lie down and rest. It was not even a bench or anything.
You see okay, fair enough. You pass someone like lying on the side of the road. You're just like, they're fine.
Yeah, actually right after this guy driving a truck, I think it's one of the road construction workers. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm okay." And he brings me a bottle of water. So it was really nice.
Nice of him. Yeah.
But people, they look after each other because you're so remote.
Sure.
So if there is any trouble, they help each other.
That's nice.
So on the way back down, I stopped near the Denali National Park, and that white mountain in the picture is the Mount Denali. And it's rare that you could have a clear shot like that, but I was very lucky that day that it was a clear, so I could have a clear visibility.
And once again, just like look at how far away you were and look how big it was.
Yes.
Like just massive.
Right. And I was heading to Wrangell St. Elias National Park and ran into this very tall, very big moose on the road. So I stopped to take a picture, and then he just kind of quietly walked out. That was a pretty special encounter. And this is an area called Gakona Lodge. It's in the middle of pretty much nowhere.
It looks more like a tent.
Away. Yeah, so I tried to book a room, but rooms were sold out, mostly to construction workers who was working on the road. There's a lot of road construction going on up there. But the owner was nice enough to let me pitch my tent for free at this lawn area right next to the place. But unfortunately, it was parked right next. It was right next to a restaurant saloon, and the particular night that I camped there was Saturday night,
Right.
and that's the only place to socialize and have fun for the locals.
Right.
So they were partying till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I couldn't sleep very well.
And it still
And so-
looks like bright outside.
Yeah, it's bright. I'm tired. I'm cold. But anyway, that's part of the experience. And this is a signpost that I saw at Vancouver Island. There's a town of Port Hardy. And when I got off the ferry and I was riding down, I saw this sign, "Live the Adventure." And I thought, wow, that's an amazing catchphrase that I really liked. So took a picture of that. And then I got home safely. So
Yay.
my family welcomed me back home. My daughter, Emily, was tested positive, so she's wearing a mask there. And my mother was looking on. She was very worried about my trip. She's like very worried when I go on these trips.
Sure.
So, but I just asked her to pray for me, and she
Is
wished
she
for me.
still worried you're back?
Yes, she's always worried that when I'm going on trips.
So you may as
She's
well
so
just
happy
go.
when I'm back, of course.
Of course.
So yes. Yeah. So the next ride, which I did just last December, was to Ushuaia. Now, to ride my own motorcycle down there and back, it would take me like 4 to 5 months. And so my wife would give me about 30 days to go on long trips, once a year or two.
Reasonable.
So
Yeah.
what I decided is just to save time, I cheated a little bit and just flew from LA to Santiago, Chile,
Fair enough.
and then to another town of Osorno.
Okay.
And Osorno is kind of the beginning of the Patagonia.
Yes.
Patagonia is the southern tip.
Yes.
So it's just like North America, you have Alaska, which is one tip of North America. Patagonia is the southern tip between Argentina on the Atlantic Ocean and then Chile on the Pacific Ocean. And so I flew down, rented my BMW Adventure motorcycle in Osorno. There's a place that you could rent them.
So you rented.
I rented.
You didn't bring your bike.
I thought
down.
about shipping, but I looked into the shipping costs. It's like $5,000 to ship.
Cool.
And then when you get there, clearing the customs is a lot of hassle.
Yeah.
So you're not assured that you're going to get it back in time. So
Okay.
a lot of people said if you're going for less than 2 months, you're better off just renting down there. And it's pricey, but it's cheaper than shipping your own bike.
For sure. I wonder if most people have in mind how much riding you're going to be doing when they say it's better to rent.
Yeah, so I tell them that, you know, I'm kind of planning my route, planning my sort of distances, and so I figure, okay, I'm going to be riding between 20 to 21 days, so I need to rent for those period.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about $250 a day to rent these BMW adventure motorcycles.
Wow. Okay.
So it's about $5,000.
Yeah.
But that's about the cost of shipping your bike
Right.
from LA to down there anyway.
Yeah.
But then you don't have the hassle of clearing the
Of
customs.
Right. For sure.
Save time.
I'm with you.
So
Makes
this
sense.
is a map of Patagonia region, and I made a copy of this map from my National Geographic map book. And so I plan my route from Osorno all the way down to the bottom, which is the Ushuaia in this island of Tierra del Fuego. It's a big island. That's where the Ushuaia, Argentina is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm crisscrossing the Andes Mountains between the Pacific side on the Chile and then on the kind of a plain area in Argentina. I'm
Yeah.
going back. I crossed the border maybe about 5 or 6 times while I'm riding down.
Yeah, this map doesn't look as straightforward as your other ones did. It's a
Yes.
lot more.
So the planning for this trip took longer just because, you know, these are foreign countries. I don't speak Spanish, and information is not as available.
Right.
And so I had to rely on other motorcycle travelers, you know, routes.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to do a lot of research and preparation to plan your trip and plan your route.
Right.
And this ride was about 3,200 miles long, which is about the distance from LA to New York, but you're riding through the mountainous regions in Andes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is I had to pack everything and carry everything onto the airplane. So that was another challenge. Before, I had to just pack everything into the
Right, into the
panniers
bike.
and top box and
Yeah.
bring with me. But in this case, I had to bring. Not only that, the other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to hike to the Fitzroy mountain peak in what town called Air Charten. It's about a 14-mile hike, a round trip with about 3,500 feet elevation.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's a pretty challenging hike,
Yeah, no
and I
kidding.
wanted to do it, so I had to bring my backpacking gear, hiking shoes, and other things to you know, hiking poles and stuff like that to hike. So yeah, I was able to put everything in between my dry bag and the yellow dry bag and the hiking backpack, and flew with a one bag checked in. So flew from LA to Santiago, which took about to Osorno, about 17-hour flight. And the next slide. Yeah, so I was joined by 3 other riders who were looking for a tour company to go on a motorcycle adventure tour, but they were all sold out.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out through some motorcycle riders that I'm going to Patagonia by myself. So they reached out to me and asked me if they could join, since I had already planned the route.
You'd
And
already done all the work.
I checked the rental company, and they had 3 more bikes that they could rent. So yeah, so I said, sure, come along. And
Cool.
so yeah, so they got a nice adventure tour through my planning, and so this is town of Bariloche, and now this is a region where President Teddy Roosevelt traveled through when he was president or after his presidency.
Okay.
Because he traveled to this region long time ago, and I was saw this totem poles, which were totem poles that I saw in a village in South Korea when I was growing up. And also
Really?
these totem poles are in Alaska in Native American villages.
Huh.
So it confirms the it's not a theory, it's a scientifically proven thing, but the migration of people from Africa to Asia,
Right.
down to across Alaska, down to South America, North America.
Yeah.
And the cultural artifacts are still there.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was very incredible to me that such totem poles are there.
And what are they? Like, do they know what
So
they
this is called,
represent?
in Korean, 천하 대장군 and 지하 여장군, means like the men are like the king of the under the sky, above the ground, and then the women are the queen of the below the ground. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of and it's meant to keep the evil spirits away from entering the village.
Uh-huh.
And so this was the town of Bariloche. Now this wooden cabin is famous because it's where Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid lived while they were on their run in Argentina.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I remember learning about them when I was riding through Utah,
Mm-hmm.
the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kids, and when I was riding through there, this is where they lived, and they were robbing banks down there too.
Yep.
So they were eventually killed in I think Bolivia there was a manhunt,
Yes.
massive international manhunt,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was kind of a very interesting that they keep showing up in the places that I'm riding.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was very interesting. Yeah, and when you're riding, sometimes the road is
Not a road.
flooded with like stream water,
Yeah.
and it forms. So you need to just ride across it. So this is one of a few times where I had to cross the water.
I was
water
telling you
crossing.
earlier, I feel like I've seen more. I haven't seen any roads.
Yeah,
And any
there's
of
a lot
these
of dirt
pictures
road.
and
Yeah.
videos. This is
I
just-
love riding on the dirt road, and that's
Yeah.
why it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And Cachtera Austral is this famous highway in Chile where the dictator, forgot his name, Pinochet built to connect some of the southern villages of Chile to the Santiago and the more developed area. It's a
Okay.
beautiful highway that cuts through a lot of the Andes mountains and foothills.
And are there a lot of motorcyclists who go through this area?
Oh yeah, this is...
I can tell because of the stickers.
Oh yeah, the stickers. So there are stickers everywhere.
Right.
But this Cachtera Austral is especially famous because it's just so beautiful. And it's very challenging. And you'll see a couple of photos and videos next. So this is a town of Koihake. No, this might be another town, but
That's a
it's
plant.
a fjord, just like you see in Norway, where the glaciers used to be present, and then it flowed out and created this big opening,
Sure.
and it connects to the Pacific Ocean. But the leaves are so humongous there. I don't know what's in the soil, but it was amazing how big these leaves were.
Yeah, whatever they're feeding their plants down there, it's working.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
big old leaves. So while this next picture or video is loading, you had to fly down there, and so you had to be a little more discerning with your gear. Like how were the considerations different? How did you decide like what to leave behind this time versus
that's
what
a
you would
good question.
normally take?
The first decision I made is that I'm not going to camp. So it's just too much equipment to carry,
Sure, makes sense.
both onto the airplane as well as on the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also the weather in Patagonia is quite cold and it's quite windy. And so it's very unpleasant.
Even when you were there, because you were
Even
there.
in the summer. So it was December.
Yeah.
December here is summertime down there.
Right.
Because
Yeah, of
in the
course.
southern hemisphere, the season is flipped.
Yes.
So December down there is summer, but even summer, it was very chilly
Okay.
and very windy.
Interesting.
So, so it was a good decision that we didn't camp out because it would have been way too windy with chilly at night to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was one of the decisions. I think other things, I had to bring the hiking gear in this trip because I wanted to hike to Fitzroy.
Mm-hmm.
That Patagonia jacket has that logo. That's Fitzroy
Yeah.
Peak. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
I had to bring that. That was extra that I normally don't bring.
Mhm.
But that was kind of my bucket list to hike. Can we? Yeah, so I'm riding on the Cachtera Austral, and it's a very windy road, and it was raining, and there was a truck coming down in a pretty narrow road, so I had to slow down, let the truck go by, and so I had to gently turn and keep riding on it. And it's raining, it's wet, my GoPro camera was broken, mount on my helmet was broken, so I'm recording with my iPhone on a RAM mount on the motorcycle. So, in the next slide, it was very windy road, and so I took a picture of the Google Maps, and so those blue lines are basically the roads.
Yeah.
Those are like hairpin turns all the way up to the top in a wet, gravelly, slippery road.
Looks like almost like a digestive tract, if you've ever
Yes.
seen one of them.
Yes.
So I've been told. That's pretty.
So yeah, this is when we got
That's
to the
beautiful.
top of the mountain, top of the hill. It was raining and drizzly and cold. You could see the clouds in the mountain and the snow on the mountain peaks.
And this is summer.
This is summer.
This is summer.
This is like December.
Peak summer.
December 10th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And more dirt road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm recording my fellow riders who are riding along the dirt road. The mountains range in the back is the Andes Mountain. I mean, Andes Mountain is the longest mountain range in the world. It's like everywhere.
Do you find your mind goes to different places depending on where you are? Like when you let your mind wander, you just think about whatever. Is it different depending on the trip you're on, the place you're in?
So, one of the things about my motorcycle riding is because you're balancing on two wheels and there are other objects around you,
Mm-hmm.
and also the scenery, the nature is so beautiful
Yeah.
that your mind is completely focused.
You're fine.
And
okay.
all your sensory input is in operation.
Sure.
So visually, audio, hearing, your skin is feeling the air.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling the vibration of the motorcycle engine running,
Mm-hmm.
and the surface of the road. So it's a hyper-sensory experience.
Yeah.
And also it's dangerous, so you don't want to fall down or crash or slip.
Right.
And so you have to be constantly alert. So there are times where it's just straight road, it's paved road, so it's kind of monotonous. Then that's when I turn on the music through my helmet. I have a Bluetooth speaker inside my helmet, so I listen to
okay.
music. And I must have listened to my playlist in my iPhone for like 10 times or 20 times right now because
Sure.
I listen to the same music over and over again because I write so much. But yeah, so that's how I keep myself alert as well as entertained
Right,
when
but-
it's kind of monotonous.
But when you're riding the intestine,
when you're
you're
writing that, you're like
you're focused. You're locked in.
You have to totally concentrate. Otherwise, it's easy to fall down and crash.
I get that. So what do we have here?
So this is empanada. We stopped at this small market / restaurant / homemade like empanada shop, and empanada is like the staple diet there.
Mhm.
So it reminded me of mandu, which is like Korean pot stickers or gyoza in Japanese word.
Of course. Yeah.
And so it's very popular. It's very good. The filling is it could be chicken or beef or pork or vegetable or cheese. So we had lots of empanada during this trip.
I know in this part of the world.
Yeah, so this is another ride through the dirt road across the Andes Mountain, crossing from Argentina to Chile.
Which time? You said you happened like a few times.
Yeah, so this was near between Coyhaique and maybe Perito Moreno, which is a small town in Argentina.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I took another satellite image of our location to relative to North America and home in LA.
You're biggest of all here.
Yes, I keep maps getting
You just keep getting
smaller
bigger.
and smaller.
Yeah.
yeah. And we're there's a video of riding across the snow-covered mountain along the roadside. But yeah, you cross into all kinds of weather. In this case, it was snowing. Yeah, here we go. So there's snow on the ground. The road snow is melting, so it's slippery. So you have to be really careful. there's still snow on the road, so it could be like it's not difficult to wipe out unless you concentrate.
On which trip were you most cautious about the roads, and in which trip were you most cautious about the drivers?
You know, the most cautious about drivers are when I'm crossing, like going through big towns, like when I'm riding through Las Vegas on my way up to Canada or Alaska, or when I'm riding through Toronto.
Gotcha. Okay.
These big towns have a lot of traffic, and it's you cannot avoid going through the big city to get to your destination.
Right.
So the traffic is present, but we have this lane splitting thing where motorcycles are allowed to ride between the two cars on the lane because if there's enough space. So I do that to save some time if there's significant traffic congestion.
Sure.
In terms of the road, I would say the roads in Alaska as well as Canada near Tuktoyaktuk, as well as in Patagonia, the wet roads when it's raining, it's most dangerous because it's very slippery.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the next, and there's a marble cathedral on this lake between Chile and Argentina.
That's really cool.
Interesting because that lake is where the founder of North Face drowned in an accident while he was kayaking.
Yeah. Doug Tompkins.
That's right. Yeah. So that's a very beautiful lake. It has two names. One that Chilean people calls one name, and the Argentinian side they call it another name. Like Lake Buenos Aires for the Argentinian side, and Lake General or something in the Chile side. And there are many checkpoints along the way. In this case, it was a Chilean caballeros or Chilean like sheriff or police. They have a checkpoint to make sure that you're not carrying any drugs or you have proper paperwork. And so we had all the paperwork, so there was no problem. And the unlike some of the countries in Central America, which I heard are kind of police are expecting some kind of payoff. The ones that we ran into in Chile and Argentina were clean. There was no issue of them expecting any kind of payment.
Yeah,
and that's largely because Chile and Argentina are two of the wealthiest countries in South America. It's the largest economy and the highest GDP. So the standard of living is much higher compared to some of the other countries in Central America or even South America, like Paraguay or Brazil or Bolivia or countries like that. And we're riding along this narrow dirt trail along the lake to cross into Argentina this time. So you can see that it's really large enough for one car, but it's a two-way highway. So if there's a car coming the other way, then you have to slow down and pull over to one side. Otherwise, you can get. This is the Lake Buenos Aires. And to the left is a cliff that goes all the way down. So some parts have the side guardrails, but other parts there's no guardrails like here. So unless you're careful, you could go off the cliff.
At any point, did you jump into this water?
No, not this water. Yeah. And there are many bridges that you cross because of a lot of rivers and lakes along the Andes mountains and Pacific. So we're continuously traveling south to get to the end of the world, which is Ushuaia, Argentina.
So you landed in Chile, Santiago, and then you rode down and then back up?
Then back up a little bit to a town of Punta Arenas.
Gotcha.
That's like a large town down there.
Okay.
From there, you could catch a plane to Santiago, Chile,
Okay.
and then back to U.S.
Gotcha, with you.
Yeah. So this picture shows how rocky the road is down there.
Yeah, really.
So they're like ostrich egg-sized rocks that are really bumpy. And the next video should show what it's like to ride there. We lost the
see it.
My friend was riding behind me. He recorded this on his iPhone while I was handling it. You could see how shaky it was because of the road conditions. Very
So to your point about needing to stay focused and engaged at all times.
Exactly.
How do you navigate riding on a surface like that?
So, takes some amount of training. So in my case, I sometimes go riding in some of the OHV or off-road, off-highway vehicle parks.
Mm-hmm.
So in Santa Clarita, there is a OHV. I forgot the name, and there's one in Gorman area called the Hungry Valley.
Okay.
And then there's one in Cleghorn near Hesperia,
Sure.
near Wrightwood. So there are a lot of places where you could go practice riding on a mountain road or sandy road in Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
So you do a certain amount of training. I also attended a rawhide adventure motorcycle training class in Santa Clarita.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3-day class. They teach you how to ride through the gravels, dirt, through the mountain roads. So that was very helpful.
Very nice.
But yeah, you need to have some experience riding in this kind of road conditions. Otherwise, it could be dangerous.
Yeah. That's not a motorcycle.
Yeah, so here we stayed a night at this estancia, which is a Spanish word for like a ranch. So there's lots of land. This is like a 20,000 acre ranch, estancia, and I got to ride on their horse to ride around one parts of it. He's the 4th generation of the ranch owner.
Oh, wow.
Who's lived there, and it was very interesting to learn about his family history, how they settled there and started this estancia, right, of 20,000 acres, just an enormous amount of land. And the lamb barbecue is a very popular thing down there.
Yeah.
So they cook right on the like a fireplace-like oven. It's a long, slow cook. They cook for like 4 or 5 hours, so it's very delicious.
That sounds
it's very
delightful.
delicious. And then we finally get to the town of El Charten, or the Fitzroy. So this is as we're entering the town of El Charten. That's Fitzroy Mountain, reasonably clear view.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend took this picture of me from behind, and it's just so beautiful as you approach. The mountain gets bigger and bigger as you get closer. And I stop at a couple of points to take some pictures. And I stop whenever I can. Oh, I think we missed a video, Phoebe. So there was an AI video. So when I was riding through here, my son here, David, he created this drone shot, but it's actually not a drone shot. It's actually an AI-generated video.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was amazed at how real it looked. And I don't know. It just took some prompt, and because my son is a computer science student, he was able to generate this kind of AI-generated video.
Very cool.
With a minimal effort. I was very impressed.
I like how there are 4 mirror shadows on the ground, one of which is coming out of your head.
Yeah. And here I'm hiking up to Fitzroy, so I'm carrying my hiking backpack and hiking gear. It's just so beautiful, and I finally made it to the top after a very hard hike. It was very steep, almost felt like 60-degree vertical, and
Wow.
I felt like climbing mountains there, but finally made it to the top after hiking from like 6 hours. It's covered with cloud. Usually it's cloudy, so I took some pictures. And then on the day that we were leaving, it cleared up, so I was able to get this shot.
Wow.
That's the Mount Fitzroy in the background. It's a humongous granite-like peak that juts up into the sky. And then, I don't know what happened to the audio, but I'm holding my iPhone camera in self-video while I'm riding with Fitzroy and my riding friends following me behind. So I film this while I'm riding when I know it's safe and there are no other cars nearby.
Yeah.
And I'm riding pretty slow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm able to do that.
How fast are you riding in this?
I'm
video?
riding here maybe about 30, 35 miles per hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you run into a lot of motorcycle riders on the road, especially in places like Patagonia, because it's so popular adventure spot. But it's a couple from Denmark. They call themselves Viking motorcycle riders because I guess they're descendants of Viking, and they were riding 2 Honda motorcycles across Patagonia. This is called Perito Moreno Glacier, which is one of the largest glaciers in South America, and it was pretty massive. Doesn't look that massive here, but it goes about 20 miles way in the back, so it's just humongous, and it stays. Unlike the glaciers in Alaska, which is melting and it's just like getting shorter and smaller, this glacier is maintaining its size.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it grows a little bit. So it's kind of funny how climate change affects one region but doesn't affect the other.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of an interesting thing for me to learn. Another shot of the terrain that we're riding, very rocky. And this is Torres del Paines National Park, which is one of the most beautiful national parks in Patagonia. We woke up after staying at a cabin, and it was just so beautiful. And then we were riding to a lake, and I was maneuvering a U-turn.
Those
And then it was
pesky
because
U-turns,
of
man.
slippery, yeah.
Yeah. They get you.
Yeah, because you have very narrow road and you're trying to make a tight U-turn.
I get
And
it.
it's a heavy bike, so
Sure.
it crashed and the windshield it cracked but I couldn't get this bike back up by myself because it was kind of situated at an angle on a slope, and so I had to wait my friend to come and help me get the bike
You couldn't
up.
deadlift it up again.
Yeah, because
Bummer.
to do that you need to have a flat surface,
Sure.
but this was on the slope
Gotcha,
and
with
weird
you.
angle.
Mm-hmm.
This is Lago Grey, which is another beautiful spot in Torres del Paines. We're taking a break, and I walked up to the hill to take the shot. And here, if you could try to get the audio, that would be great. So this is riding in the Torres del Paines with the Cerro Torre, which is the peaks that you see in the background.
Our system's a little finicky back there. We may have to make do without.
Oh, here we go.
Never mind. System works perfectly. Never any problems.
Well, it's a lot of fun to ride on a slippery gravel road because you're testing your riding skill. And you have to stand up to have lower center of gravity. Put
to
all your
stand
weight
up?
on the foot peg instead of on the seat, which is higher.
Huh.
So that's one of the techniques of riding on a gravelly road.
Interesting.
You stand up.
I had not
It
thought
tends
about
to
that.
lower the center of gravity of the
Right.
motorcycle.
Makes sense.
So you get a better balance and better traction. And we're leaving Torres del Paines National Park, and we're riding along this river that flows through this national park. It was so beautiful. Those Cerro Torre out there were so beautiful.
Your little speedometer right there, is that in miles or kilometers
That's
per hour?
in miles.
Oh, yeah, that's in miles.
Yeah, you could set these displays in both kilometers or miles. I
Sure.
just set it in miles
Makes
because that
sense.
is what I'm used to.
Yep.
This is a small town of Puerto Natales near Ushuaia, and this is a prehistoric animal called Mylodon.
Okay.
It's a giant anteater, but it used
okay.
to live there. So just like in Alaska, there is a mammoth, woolly mammoth, that is
Right.
extinct. This particular animal is extinct, but used to live in that region,
Mm-hmm.
Mylodon. so I took a picture there.
It's a big old
And
boy.
I don't know whose fingers these are, but it was there, so I took a picture in the Puerto Natales.
If anyone has lost any fingers, they're in. They're there. There they are. Go get them.
These are animal called guanaco, and they're kind of a llama family of animals, and they're like everywhere because they're pretty large, ranch, open area. But one interesting thing is many of them try to jump over these barbed wire fences, and sometimes they get caught and they die. And you could see a lot of dead guanacos hanging on the barbed wire fence in that region. And there are sheep down there, and sheep farming was the original industry of the European settlers when they migrated from Europe to this region like 200 or 300 years ago.
Right.
And sheep do well in this very rough terrain, and they're able to graze and produce wool, which was a huge industry down
Sure.
there.
Right.
Yeah. And we get near the Straits of Magellan, and that ship is a replica of the ship that Ferdinand Magellan, the first human to circumnavigate the earth, rode on to travel from Portugal down to this region, Magellan Straits, out to Pacific, into Philippines, and back to Portugal. So first human to circumnavigate. He didn't quite complete the trip because he got killed in the Philippines, but he planned the whole thing, and his crew was able to finish the trip.
Uh-huh.
Took him like 3 years.
Wow.
They left with like 200 people on 5 different ships, but only one ship made back with like 30 people survived. So a huge loss of human life and ships, but at least they circumnavigated the Earth.
If you had the opportunity and you could sign up to go on that expedition, not knowing if you'd make it back, would you go?
Probably not.
The odds are a little too steep for that one, for sure.
I mean,
No,
I have a
getcha.
family. If I was single and I was adventurous back then, maybe.
Hell yeah.
But at this juncture, I have to be honest, I don't think I could sign up.
That's fair. That's
Just too much unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I love the mystery and the curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
but I have my limit.
Understandable.
That's a shot of Straits of Magellan. As we're about to cross the Magellan to get into Tierra del Fuego, which is a big island on the southern tip of South America, where the city of Ushuaia is.
And what is that big thing sticking up? Is that anything? It looks like the Michelin Man, like Bob's Big Boy.
I could not tell.
Can't tell.
I could not tell what
All
that
right.
structure is.
Moving along.
Another shot along the road, lots of dirt road.
That's a big sky.
And this is a screenshot I took as I was riding down to Tierra del Fuego, Ushuaia. So you could see parts of North America on the lower left-hand side,
Mm-hmm.
and the entire South American continent on the middle. And then the red dot was where I'm riding, and to the right there's a white thing, that's Antarctica.
Yep.
So we're so close to Antarctica, just a few hundred miles off,
Yeah.
right? And the South Pole is not far from there. So it just kind of gives you the sense of location of where you are,
Right.
where I was. And that was. And to cross the Straits of Magellan, we have to get on the ferry. And so this is a photo shot of the motorcycles and cars and trucks that are on the ferry. It's a short crossing, but pretty choppy water. Then eventually we make it to Ushuaia. This is another spot where the people take pictures to kind of prove that they made it to the southern end of South America,
Mm-hmm.
or the end of the world, as some call it. This is the terminal point of the Pan American Highway, which starts all the way from Alaska down to this point.
Wow.
So Pan American Highway is one of the longest highways, but there's a break in near Panama and Colombia.
Right.
And so other than that jungle area, it runs all the way from Alaska to this point.
Well, there's a canal there, right?
Yeah, I forgot the name of the Darien Gap. Thank you, Chad. So Darien Gap is that jungle area that's very dangerous to get through,
Sure.
for a number of different reasons.
Right.
But a couple of motorcyclists did ride through that jungle area even, which is pretty amazing.
Could be you next. You could do it.
I could, but it would take about a year to plan everything for that. But
You may have to negotiate that with your wife.
yeah, that's right.
Fair enough.
That's right. And then I rode to the another side road, dirt road, to go as far south as I can. So this is the marker. That's the end of the dirt road the south of Ushuaia. And I hiked down this very thick trail to get down to the water to dip my feet to commemorate my arrival. And the water was very cold, so I'm like smiling partly because my feet are freezing right there. Because it's like ice cold water from the Antarctica.
Right.
Because Antarctica is
Oh, yeah.
just not too far away from
Mhm.
there. We're hiking back up. And then from Ushuaia, we have to ride 2 days to this town of Punta Arenas to return the bike and
Yes.
fly back home. But the side wind was so strong. Patagonia is famous for
Mhm.
that. It's strong side wind. So we have to counteract the side wind by leaning into it, and that's what this.
So
picture
that's
shows.
what the lean is.
That's what
it's
the lean
winding
is.
so
That's right.
hard.
Wind is blowing so heavy, you have to lean to counteract that force.
Wow. That's nuts.
And when we got to this town of Punta Arenas, we found that there is a Korean ramen noodle shop owned by this Korean Chilean. So we went there to have some hot ramen noodle soup. It was really good. And all of us have like beards by then, and because we hadn't like shaved in a while, and
Sure.
that's ramens, noodle soup. And then I flew back home, arrived in LAX. My wife was nice to come to LA airport to pick me up.
That's
and my
love right
daughter
there.
prepared a nice welcome home sign for me,
That's
which was
very
very
sweet.
nice. So that was really a nice trip, and I was very happy to be back home safe. So that's the three kind of big trips that I've done
Sure.
over the last 3-4 years.
Mhm. So how did your mentality, like the way you prepared for it, the way you approached the trips, change from trip 1 to trip 3?
So the Newfoundland trip was with my friend Carl, and that gave me a lot of support and confidence,
Yeah.
knowing that Carl is an experienced adventurer, traveler, and a motorcyclist.
Yeah.
And so that was actually, I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Carl. It was his idea.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Right.
And I went, and I think I gained a lot of confidence from that trip.
Mhm.
So the next year, I wanted to go to Alaska with Carl, but he was practicing law in Seattle, and he had to work. He had a bunch of cases he was working on, so he couldn't go.
My sympathies.
So I faced a situation where, do I not go because Carl is not going, or do I go by myself because no other riders in this area could go?
Mhm.
You know, 37 days is a long time. People have to work. They have like other things. So I decided I will go. I will by myself. So that took some courage, but
Yeah.
I did enough research and planning to feel like I could do it safely.
Mhm.
Patagonia was a totally different because it's like another continent.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
right? It's another foreign country. But, you know, my friend Carl traveled down there on a different. He drove down his truck down there, and his truck broke down somewhere in Argentina. So he hiked down to Ushuaia
Mhm.
like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And so last year when I was planning this, Carl had died in that diving accident.
Yeah.
So I was really missing him. But I was thinking about Carl as I was planning this trip, and I want to visit some of these places that Carl visited.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the impetus of me going down there. The other thing is I've always wanted to ride down to Ushuaia because that's the southern tip of South America.
Right.
And I love riding to the ends of the road where I cannot go any further.
Mhm.
That's kind of the challenge, and I feel deep sense of accomplishment
I
when
get that.
when I accomplish that. So
Mhm.
that was kind of a bucket list. Then I'll do that, and I want to continue to ride in all over the world as long as I can, and so it's just my way of continuing on my dream to travel all over the world.
Mhm.
And I want to start from North America and then go to South America and go to Europe, go to Asia, and you know other continents later.
So what do you think the next trip for you is going to be?
So the next trip I'm thinking is Norway. There's a northernmost motorable point in Europe is called Nordkapp.
Okay.
Nordkapp is very far north. It's also in the Arctic Ocean.
Right.
And
Makes
so
sense.
it's you know I heard it's really beautiful there too, just like it is Alaska and Patagonia.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of my next sort of tentative destination that I want
Okay.
to do next year.
Cool. And so for someone who's thinking that that this is something they want to do, but they don't have the experience, or they're just starting out, or they don't really know like how to go, or the idea of one of these trips of these lengths is daunting to them. What advice do you have, or what are the things that you set, or that you think that everyone should think
Yeah.
about, everyone should consider when they're planning a trip like this?
That's a good question. My recommendation is start small and start close. So,
Yeah.
you know, I started by riding from La Cañada, where I live, to Malibu Beach, which is 1 hour away, right?
Yeah.
Or Angeles Crest Highway up to Lancaster or Palmdale.
Mm-hmm.
So just go on short trips,
Yeah.
short rides,
Yeah.
and you gain confidence and gain experience, and you go further and further. So in my case, after Malibu and nearby area, one time Carl and another friend and I, three of us rode from LA to El Centro, and then to Joshua Tree National Park up to Riverside and back. That was a 3-day trip,
Yeah.
800 miles.
Wow.
So that was amazing,
Yeah.
right? So you could
kidding.
do these shorter trips, just overnight trip.
Yeah.
So just gradually build experience, start with the short baby steps. Now, you need to continue to like stay fit because as you go further and farther, it takes a lot of endurance.
Yeah.
So it's kind of endurance sports to be able to do such a long rise every day.
Sure.
And so I try to stay fit by running with a marathon club and running and going to the gym and
Right.
just generally eating healthy and staying fit by exercising,
Right.
even when I'm not riding.
Like it's not just about getting on the bike. It's also about like kind of maintaining a healthy.
That's right. But
holistic lifestyle.
going on these long motorcycle trips is actually a source of motivation for me to stay fit and healthy
Yeah. Right.
because I cannot do this without having the physical health and fitness to support it, right? And so, and then just start small, start close, and go a little bit further at a time. So in my case, that's how I did it. Started from Southern California, then over to Utah, to San Francisco, Seattle, to Yellowstone National Park. There was one video that I wanted to share of this group of bisons that I rode through in Yellowstone. Phoebe, can we show that bison video? Yeah, so I was riding through Yellowstone National Park and I saw this thing far up ahead. But what is that? And I realized, wow, it's a group of bison that's walking in the middle of the road. So I'm riding very slow and I'm getting a little nervous because these are huge animals. And I see that there's a little calf in the middle. I go, oh, they're like protecting the calf. But I had to get through it. So I just kept riding slow. And there was a car up ahead. I noticed it later. That car stopped and turned around and went the other way because they didn't want to mess with being close to bison.
Yeah.
But I kept riding, and it was like one of the scariest moments of my motorcycle because I was like this close to the bison when I was riding around
Right.
it.
And we all know how U-turns go.
That's yeah. I don't want to make U-turns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel comfortable enough to just pass them by to their right, but when I was right next to them, they were like this close. And I'm going, oh, I hope they don't like
Right.
headbutt me and like I'm gone, right? So
Even just like a little like accidental, just like shoulder, just sends you flying off the road.
right.
Yeah.
I have a few more slides about some of the excerpts from my
Yeah, your memoir. You have a book coming out in 2016, right? Or 2026, excuse me.
Yeah.
2016. 2026.
Right. So I've been working on writing a book about my motorcycle travels and my life journey coming
Yeah.
from Korea, adjusting and adapting to this country. And so in my memoir, I write about my motorcycle trips with my buddy Carl. And when we were in Williams, Arizona, near Grand Canyon National Park,
Yeah.
we're talking about different things in the motel room, and we're talking about how we love motorcycle riding and traveling, but we also recognize that our family, friends are worried because it's dangerous. And Carl kind of said, dying while doing what we love is not a bad way to go.
Yeah.
That statement just kind of hit me. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
We all die eventually,
All of us.
right? Whether it's hospital bed or bed at home.
Yeah.
And so people have this fear of getting hurt or dying, but I don't think that fear should stop you from doing what you love. I mean, within reason, I think you need to, thank you. I think you need to be, you need to learn, get experience, and be as safe as you can.
Yeah.
But I don't think fear should stop you from challenging yourself and pursuing adventures.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of one of the sort of insights that I learned from Carl. So the next excerpt that I wanted to share with is this is when I was in that Gakona Lodge in Alaska. I had to pitch my tent next
Right.
to this
Next to the saloon.
saloon, and it was really late, early in the morning, and I was so tired. It was so cold when I woke up. Didn't get much sleep. So by evening, I reached Gakona Lodge in the middle of nowhere, where rooms were fully booked. The owner allowed me to pitch my tent near the saloon, oblivious to the fact that a Saturday night party would roar until 2 a.m. Sleep was fleeting. but free accommodation had their price. Just 3 hours later, I woke at 5 a.m. inside a cold tent and feeling tired. I asked myself, what am I doing here? The same question I asked in Newfoundland. So when I make it to the destination, I'm so exhausted. And sometimes you have injuries or you're so tired. And you know that you're doing this out of your own choice. But then things are so hard, you consider, why am I doing this? But there's a book titled What Am I Doing Here? It's written by some English writer. Mm-hmm. And apparently it's a common sort of sentiment that a lot of adventurers feel when they go on long, very difficult trips, and then the rigor of what they went through. Yeah. And so I wanted to share that particular thought. And the next one is when I travel on motorcycle, I share my travels as a post on Facebook. So this was after I hit Ushuaia, Argentina, coming back to Punta Arenas to return the bike. And so tomorrow and the day after, we'll be riding back to Punta Arenas to return the bike and fly back home to LA for Christmas with family. Fatigue and aches are settling in, but it has been an amazing adventure so far. Adventure is a gift. And that's how I felt as I was riding back from Ushuaia. Adventure is a gift. You could take it or leave it, but it is a gift, and I chose to take it because it is an amazing experience. Yeah. And that's why we'll continue to adventure. Sure.
And so, like you said, hopefully this book is going to be out next year in 2026.
Yes, I'm expecting Q2 next year.
Excellent. Well, look, we hope to have you back whenever it's published, and maybe you can do a reading here for us. I want to end my questions anyway. Can we go back to the welcome home sign? What has it meant, when we think about adventure, obviously we think about, going off and doing the thing, but everyone has support structure. Everyone has family. Everyone in this room has people who care about and support them. And without those people, we would not be able to adventure or do anything, really. Right. So what has it meant? How has your family supported you in your adventures, and what has it meant to you to have that support?
Right. Yeah, for the long time, my wife, after we moved to LA, wouldn't let me ride motorcycle because she said the traffic in LA is really bad and the drivers are aggressive, and so she cared for my safety.
And she's right.
And so I didn't ride for a long time, but around 2018, I was 57 years old, and I felt I felt the kind of emptiness, and I felt the itch to want to ride again. And so I was able to borrow a motorcycle from a friend in La Cañada. He let me ride his motorcycle one day, and I rode to Malibu. And so she after that, she realized how riding motorcycle made me so happy, and she didn't want to deny that from me. And so I persuaded her to let me get a motorcycle. I promised that I'll ride safe, and so that was the beginning of her permission for me to ride motorcycle. Yeah. And I'm very thankful to my wife who understands and supports me in my adventures, because without that, it would be virtually impossible to do. Because, like you said, that support, emotional and logistic and otherwise, is so important, because somebody has to take care of the kids and run the household. And so, it's incredibly important to have that support, and I feel very fortunate to have a wife and children and parents and family who support me. And my father is more, he passed away last year, but he was more supportive. He didn't show his worry as much as my mom. My mom worries a lot. And so, she's just counting the days that I'm coming back because she worries that something might happen. And so, but she lets me go. I mean, it gives me so much joy and so much meaning and so much life. So, Yeah, so that support to me is incredibly important, and I do my best to try to earn that support and do my part as a husband and father to make sure that when I'm home, things are good and well provided for.
Absolutely. Are any of your kids showing interest in going with you on one of your trips coming up?
Yeah, so my youngest son wanted to learn how to ride dirt bike, so I took him out to Jawbone a couple of months ago and taught him how to ride, and he knows how to ride now.
Okay.
And my two of the other kids also want to learn too, so I hope to try to teach them over this summer how to ride, and maybe one day when they get good enough, we could go on rides together and go on some trips together. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Make it a family event. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have a little bit more time, I'd love to open it up to questions from the audience. So, folks, if you have a question for Michael, raise your hand. We'll get you a mic, and you can ask it.
Past President Bob.
Yes. Michael, what's the range of the BMW, and did you carry extra fuel?
Oh, so my GS Adventure has a 8-gallon gas tank, and it gets about 40 to 45 miles per gallon, depending on the load and the weather conditions. So it could travel about 320 to 350 miles. And one of the reasons why I decided to get BMW GS Adventure is because I wanted that mileage. I didn't want to have to worry about running out of fuel when I'm on these remote places. And
Did you ever get close?
yes, in fact, not on my bike, but when I rented the BMW GS in Patagonia, I almost ran out of gas because on the Google map there was a gas station, so I was expecting to stop and fuel, but that gas station has been shut down.
Ooh.
And I was down to just a quarter of a gallon.
Ooh.
And the next gas station was 45 miles away. So I had to really go slow at the most economical way I could ride. I was cruising at 35 miles per hour with the lowest RPM and lowest rev. Fortunately, the meter said I'm down to 0 mile left, right? But I went for another 12 miles without running out. So I made it to the gas station and was able to fill up. So that was the only time where, but up in Alaska, there are places where there's no gas station for 180 miles apart, right? Between one gas station to the next. So you need to kind of constantly fill up when you have an opportunity. But yeah.
Question is, did everybody, other riders, do they all have heavy bikes like that? Is there any advantage to having a lighter bike?
Yeah, so there's no perfect bike. It all depends on where you want to ride, where you want to go to, and what you're comfortable with. And I know a lot of motorcycle around the world riders get smaller bikes like Suzuki 650 or Honda. They have advantages, but in my case, I wanted to have more heft and comfort when I'm riding, because I'm riding. To me, that my biggest sort of precious resource is time. I don't have a lot of time because of family that I have responsibility for. So as a result, I'm riding 300 to 400 miles a day, and so I need a bike that's comfortable to ride, so I'm not so tired at the end of the day, right? So that comfort was a big factor. And that comes with big enough engine that's powerful enough, fast enough, and has technology like cruise control and other features to make the ride not so hard. Whereas if you're riding on 650, you cannot really do what I do on a smaller bike. And so now, bigger bikes are harder to handle when it falls down and when you're going through muddy areas or really deep sand areas. It's incredibly hard to pick the bike back up. So there are disadvantages. So you have to pick your route carefully so as not to get stranded in a very tough area. There are parts of Brazil where the roads, when it rains, it becomes thick mud, and it just becomes a total mess, and it's impossible to ride through that. And I know riders who've gotten stranded and stuck for days because they just cannot get their bike out. So I try to avoid those spots, and that comes with part of the planning for, your trip and how you want to ride and what kind of terrain you're going to be riding through, as well as the weather.
My 2.5-part question. Why did you wonder why you were in Newfoundland? And while you were there, did you meet many of the locals, and what was that like?
Could you say the first part of the question again?
Why did you wonder why you were in Newfoundland?
Newfoundland?
Yeah.
Why did I?
When you said you're like, what am I doing here?
I see. Yeah. For the Newfoundland trip, it was my first long trip, 40 days, and I had broken my ankle from riding the like few months before that trip. So I bought this very heavy duty motocross boots called Alpine Star Tech 10 boots. It's a very protective, very thick boots. But I found out that you don't wear that for 20 days straight. That's like meant to be worn 1 or 2 days, but I was wearing that every day. So when I got to Newfoundland, my ankle and leg started having trouble, and it was extremely painful, and I couldn't. So we were in a motel, and I was like extremely fatigued, under a lot of pain, and I was 5,000 miles away from home. There was no hospitals or clinics or doctors anywhere nearby, and so I was suffering, and I felt like, well, what am I doing here, right? And suffering this pain. And now the people in Newfoundland are amazing. They're so nice, extremely hospitable. One person who was a motorcycle rider who lives in Newfoundland followed me on my Facebook and offered different advice and offered lodging for me and my friend Carl when we got to Newfoundland. And he gave us a ride around the beautiful trails around there. So, Canadian people are really super nice, and especially the Inuits and other First Nation people were extremely warm and nice. So, I find that across the board, but perhaps more so in some of these remote regions where they need to support each other because of harsh weather conditions or how remote they live in.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. What about your tires? What percent were you on pavement versus off-road, dirt or gravel? And then did you ever have flats, and did you carry a spare kit? And did you have like an all-terrain tire that was meant for all conditions?
So for the Alaska trip, which was about 10,500 miles, the off-road or unpaved road is about 2,300 miles. Because the Dempster Highway from Dawson City to Tuktoyaktuk is about 550 miles. So go up and back is 1,100 miles. And then from Fairbanks, Alaska to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, the Dalton Highway is about 400 miles. So round trip is about 800. But then there are a lot of other unpaved dirt roads all over northern part of Canada as well as Alaska. So in that trip, the dirt roads were over 20% of the trip. So that was probably one of the highest. Patagonia, I would say about 800 miles out of the 3,000 was dirt road. And so what do I do with the flat? Yeah, so I've had 2 flats during my 6 years of long distance riding. And I carry, it's a tubeless tire, and I carry a flat repair kit. It's it's called a worm, and it's basically you push this thing through and plug the hole using this tool, and it's actually works really well. And I carry a micro pump that's battery powered, so I could pump air back into the tire after I fix the flat tire. So, and that's almost the essential tool that adventure motorcycle riders who do long distance traveling must carry. That's like the baseline toolkit for emergencies.
Yeah, so you mentioned that few people got stuck in mud in Brazil. How did you plan, and which tool did you use to not have that happening to you in Argentina or elsewhere?
Yeah, so I do a lot of research in terms of the terrain that I'm riding through, and as well as the weather, because it could make all the difference. So through YouTube, through books, through there's Horizon Unlimited group. I don't know if you heard of it. They're different like overlanding groups. In our case, motorcycle groups that share information. And so, and Facebook is another great resource because there are many, many motorcycle groups in Facebook. They share information with each other, and there's a database of information. So I do the research on what kind of terrain and weather that I'm riding through to anticipate, what I need to bring, and to avoid sort of sticky situations.
So before I go into repeat questions, I want to ask one of my own, and that's want to follow up on when you're alone. And traveling alone can get kind of weird. I used to do solo travel pre-cell phone, where you can't text or talk to people. And did you ever have any experiences, the what am I doing here, and there's no one else to reinforce it? And how long were you solo, or any comment on just traveling solo versus part of a team?
Yeah, so I personally enjoy traveling with my friend Carl. It was so much fun. We just connected. We're like two buddies who had so much in common, and we just loved the camaraderie and the adventure together. We're both foodies. We love eating good food when we arrive somewhere. But I also enjoy riding solo because it's kind of meditative. You have a lot of time to think and reflect, and that's how. True. But I'm always connected through I my kids call me when I'm riding, so I'm talking to them, or when I arrive, I text or call home and talk to my wife, or. So I never felt like I was really isolated and alone, but I enjoy the solitude of riding alone and being alone because it's very meditative, it's reflective. It gave me time and space to kind of look back and ask some questions about myself and who I am, and so that's what I enjoy. So I enjoy both traveling with. My best, with a friend or a small group, but also alone. And I never felt that I dislike it because I never felt like I was alone.
When you're about to crash, what do you do? Is there a technique so the bike doesn't land on top of you? If you feel like the bike's about ready to go over, you're making your U-turn and it's not going to happen, what do you do so it doesn't land on top of you?
So one thing that I purchased is a airbag vest. Just like cars have airbags for protection in case of crash, they have airbag vests for motorcycle riders. So it's tethered through a lanyard to the motorcycle so that if you're ejected from the bike before crashing, there's a gas canister that pumps air through the vest. So your neck and your back and shoulder is protected, around your ribs too. So I always ride with that, and so that's one thing I do. And the second thing is, you just do your best to try to stay upright, but sometimes you're gonna crash, you're gonna drop your bike, and so you have to make sure that you're not traveling so fast in a risky area like very slippery gravel area, so that even if you fall, you're not gonna get severely injured. And you're protected through boots, helmets. I have an adventure riding jacket and pants that is very well padded. It's almost wearing armor because it's well padded. It's a specialized adventure bike. I thought about bringing it just to show you, but it is very protective. Arm, elbow, shoulder, knee, everything. So even if you fall, even on a hard surface, you're not going to get that badly injured. So you do the best you can to protect yourself through gears, but also just not going too fast, and so that in the event that you're crashing, you're not injured too badly.
Because if you have 1,000 pounds, even if you've got a vest on, how are you going to get that bike off when you're
Yeah, so there are some YouTube videos that I've seen where motorcycle riders' legs are pinned under the bike when they crash, and it could be dangerous if it's remote and there's nobody else around to help them. So in my case, I avoid routes like that where there's like no traffic. So I prefer taking country roads, dirt roads, but also one that has reasonable traffic. So in the event that I need help, there's cars or trucks or motorcycles driving by to help. So those are some of the precautions that I plan ahead to sort of avoid getting into a serious situation.
Of the gear that you've acquired and used and tossed and bought more of, what's something that you now find indispensable when you're on a bike ride?
Like when I'm traveling.
Water, jugs, plugs.
Cold beer for the end.
Yeah. So I would say, I always make sure that I carry gum and an earplug because riding motorcycle for long periods of time every day could be bad for your hearing, and so I carry that. I make sure I carry water. Obviously, that's very important, and I carry like beef jerky or some other snack because you could be hungry and there's no place to eat around, so you need to nourish yourself during those times. I always have the RAM mount to install my iPhone on the handlebar so that I use my Google Maps for navigation. I didn't carry that when I went on my first trip, and I paid for it because I got lost because I couldn't get the correct navigation. So I would say those are the essential things, in addition to, like, I'm always wearing my climb adventure jacket and pants, boots, and helmet. I bring gaiter if it's cold so that my neck stays warm even in a cold, windy weather. So those are some of the most essential things that I make sure I bring.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone. And for the folks at home, the folks online, if you like what you saw here tonight, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It helps us out a ton. And if you're in LA, why not come on by? We do this every single Thursday, and you can meet our amazing speakers in person and ask your questions from our live audience. That's going to do it for us here at the Adventurers Club. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time off the beaten path. Good night.